So what are we doing here? We're just a week and a half into playing this game right now, and we love it.
Pretty much perfect at this point.
Yeah, that's true. So we're just gonna dick around. We're gonna act like we're not greatest at this game. You know, we're already speed runners. Which is why we're using the Blue Falcon, because, you know, Blue Falcon is what everyone online says is the very best racer, period.
Yeah, I mean, we circled the web, looked through a couple of game guides, and it really, Blue Falcon. You definitely don't want to go with whatever the
that
pink
red
one's
car,
name is.
red pink car. No, that's the worst car, they say. Fact check us on that.
Are you gonna practice?
Yeah,
Are we just gonna?
we might just be practicing.
All right.
Okay, so we lied a lot there. Don't listen to anything we said. But we've played Mute City 1 a lot. I feel like my growth on Mute City 1 over the last week has been substantial and kind of plateauing.
This feels a little bit like a workout introduction,
Yeah, this is kind of like,
where you're like,
whoa.
is that ice? Is that supposed to be ice?
Maybe some equivalent in this universe.
Oh, what I was gonna say is it sounds like some weekly gains video.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, after the first week, I've really seen a lot of noticeable gains. Here's my before and after in a week. Looking forward to the next week.
Playing like
Garbage.
garbage. Still a play of garbage. Alright, okay. So yeah, this is Big Blue. This is the second track in the game. Another one that is relatively easy. And from when I've played it alright, I think that there's really two corners that you watch out for. One is here. And when I'm focused, it's... Oh, that was the other one. It's not bad. That one is also a little... Maybe those three are the spots, but none of them are too bad.
It really seems like when you successfully take a turn, like the difference seems to be if you can keep your car's speed at over 400 miles an hour.
That's...
So...
Okay. Well, now I got too focused on keeping my speed up there.
Well, like, I'll tell you what you drop down to if you...
Okay. What do I got? Do I got another lap? Alright, let's get a good lap in. I'm just gonna kind of play it how I've been when I do well. So far on these
Yeah, so right
sticky
there.
turns
Great.
on this one, I've been releasing the gas and no brakes. Just a slight release, like right on this one. Like that.
Yep, stayed above 400. Right at 400.
And this one, it's just getting
Still
the
did
turn
it.
right.
Still did it. Stayed above 400 the entire time.
Yeah, so that
That might have been your best lap.
that last turn,
Oh, yeah.
I don't need to do any letting go. I just need to make sure that I'm doing the hard turn.
So it's all about keeping it 400.
Keeping it 400. Alright.
Alright.
It's a play, pass kind of situation.
Alright. Come on.
So we've been keeping the content consumption kind of light around the games that we're playing. But this one, more so than Turtles in Time, we have watched some videos on. Watched a little bit of the Digital Foundry, DF Retro on F-Zero. That goes through the whole history of the series. Really good. I got a little bit further through that to Originally, I focused on the Super Nintendo era because that was what we've been playing, but the whole video is really interesting, especially as I've been playing F-Zero. And then, obviously, shout out to Jeremy Parrish if anybody out there has seen his work.
If you're seeing our work and you haven't seen his work, you should take a hard 90 and go check that out.
Any of these videos and are all substantially beyond our level.
If you found our work and you haven't found his work, I just want to know how you search the internet. That's amazing.
So those are both sort of history or retrospective looks at the game. So a couple of the main videos. You've watched a little bit of someone speedrunning and the crazy high-level play that you can have with this game, as you can have with just about any game that has a speedrunning community around it and people who fall in love with it enough to take it there.
What I really loved about the speedrunners, or at least, I guess really the one that I watched is, oh my goodness.
Conversation or gameplay, which one will it be?
Apparently it's conversation.
Yeah.
What I really appreciated about a certain level of it is the speedrunning pieces are pretty advanced and like require bouncing off walls or making these kind of absurd jumps in some ways, but you're only saving like tenths of a second when pulling off some of these pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of work for maybe not a lot of reward, unless that's, you know, your thing.
Unless you are a speedrunner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, not bad. If I wouldn't have exploded in that one lap, it would have been better.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel like this one. This one's really simple, basically. He's gonna come for me. Wait for it. Ooh, oh, there it is.
If I've learned anything, it's that the songs in this game are earworms. They're kind of all gold.
They are. Rough. Oh. Okay, so I guess the next goal here would be to actually beat the rival a few times, and then maybe take on the stronger rival. So yeah, I was trying to think of... I'm not going to be too fixed on performance here, because I'm going to try to focus my memory for a moment. What else have I seen on F-Zero? Oh, I've watched much. Oh yeah, there was another thing. We both watched a bit of the Cinemassacre, or AVGN as people tend to just call the channel. James and Mike Mondays playing this game.
We did watch a little bit of that.
And we didn't watch all. It looked like they had done a follow-up Let's Play like shortly thereafter, where they're trying some of the harder levels or the courses on hard, some of the King Circuit on hard difficulty or something like that, kind of the ultimate challenge. And then it looked like they had a revisiting, because it was one of the earlier ones that they did. I don't know. I'm exhaustive on... I haven't been watching them since the dawn of the channel or anything like that, so I'm not 100% on when they started and everything, but there was one... The first one was like 5 or 6 years ago, and they did a more recent, maybe 3 years ago, video on it. Like they couldn't resist getting back into this game that they both loved a lot. as they said in the video. I think James was saying that. Okay. I think James was saying that it's his favorite racer. Wow, I was winning. He was saying that it was his favorite racer, and then Mike was saying that he liked the Super Mario Kart on the SNES a little bit more. But for both of them, which this is the era that this is their bread and butter, but they were saying these are their favorite racing games, bar none.
So, I haven't really been paying attention to the names of the vehicles, but this is called Blue Falcon. Is it the one that like Captain Falcon drives?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And the others,
There's like Gold Fox, is that? I think that's the gold one.
I think that's right. So I had ordered the Super Famicom complete in box copy of the game. I ordered that because it's pretty inexpensive as far as those go for Super Nintendo games that you can get with the box and manual and maybe even inserts. I can't remember, but Super Famicom tends to be less expensive than Super Nintendo, and F-Zero in general hasn't been one of those games that's really ballooned in price. Maybe because it was a combination of a fairly high seller, but a series that is kind of receded into the background, so it's not on the forefront of everybody's mind. There's not a ton of content around it. And so this combination of there being a solid numbers of copies out there and it not being an enormous game in the general minds of players, it's just my thought. But it's not too expensive of a game. You can get loose copies for $10 to $15 still, complete copies for $20 to $30 after shipping. So mine, I looked at the listing for a second, and the seller did one of those auto offerings to sell it for $25. So yeah, went for it. But I'm curious to see if because I took a brief look, but I couldn't see the manual online for the Super Famicom copy of the game. I'm curious if it has the comic that the Super Nintendo North American edition has, and if it has that comic book, I'm curious, is it in English or Japanese? Of course, I'm almost certain that the manual is otherwise going to be in Japanese, but maybe that comic book isn't. I don't know. We'll see. Is the comic in there? But there's a lot of characterization and something we definitely have to look at and read through pretty soon here, because it's a big piece of the lore of this game and just part of what made it stand out. You got a 1.
That felt good.
So you broke the total record there.
Yeah, so on that last run through, I tried to use the boosts at the same time on each lap. And I would use it. So I'll let you know when I got to the part. But right when you start to see kind of like the shaded parts of the track, I would hit the boost. And then right here, I would hit the boost. And then cut this corner tight, and then cut this corner.
Mm-hmm.
So I could get the straightest line through that section. Because the rest of it's actually pretty manageable. And then I wasn't using any hard turn. So instead of braking, it was just releasing off the gas.
So that's what I've been doing too, except... So you were boosting right in here.
Yep. And then
I maybe did a little bit.
Yeah,
sooner
cut that
there.
one and then this.
Okay, so I did it a little bit early.
Mm-hmm.
But so here, like right here, I just let go of the gas for a second and hard turn and then go.
Yeah, I wasn't even
that.
doing the hard turn.
And then here I'm only hard turning. Whoa, I did it too soon. Yeah, this is like an ice. It does seem like it's like a
Yeah, for the hard turn.
The traction on that spot. Just anyways, just that one section does seem like there's something about losing grip. But could again be my imagination a little bit. Okay, yeah, I see that. Boost
Yeah,
there.
it's a nice little edge. See, I don't know. I'm not the hard turn. I'm sure it has its place, but you do seem to lose a decent amount of speed because you're dragging that.
Oh, okay.
Man.
That's what I've been wondering with the hard turn, if there's any sort of drawback, because I have been thinking that there isn't any drawback insofar as it puts you in the right angle, but you're saying you think that there is a...
Yeah, I think.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
More so than. I mean, I think it's less than if you do the
Break.
traditional break. But also, I think we haven't really slid on that ice before, and I'm wondering if you only slide using break or hard turn on that icy spot.
I'm gonna play around with. Okay, yeah, the hard turn does cause you to lose some. That's interesting. I feel like this game has been a little bit more so far. Whoa, something that and I've been thinking too, just hearing you talk about games you played growing up. I think that it sounds a little bit like you did a bit more like racers. I don't know what we want to call them. Racing games were a little bit more core to your interests.
Yeah, I think it was part interest, like what I wanted to do, but also I think the PlayStation had a bunch of decent racers. I think my cousins had racing games, and racing games tend to be... I'm sure there's counterpoints to this, but racing games seem to be more PG, so my parents were pretty comfortable with us playing racing games. And like growing up, my cousin and I were also NASCAR fans, so we would pretty much play that nonstop. But I think pretty much every type of racer. My mom also used to... The like only video games she would play were racers. And so when I was really young and it was just her and I hanging out, like we would either play NASCAR or Crash Bandicoot Racing. And then my younger brother, like Crash Bandicoot and those kind of racing games were games that he could play and like enjoy and have fun with. Because even if we weren't competitively racing, we could blow each other up or do whatever. And I think the other thing is this racing game to me is the least Nintendo kind of racing game. In so much that like when I think of racing games and Nintendo, I think of like Mario Kart. But I kind of think like I played a lot more PlayStation style racing games, which might be like the Need for Speed series, and I think there's a whole host of those style of racing games, or like motorcycle racing games, things like that. And this matches more to that style.
It's interesting you say that, because I was finishing that Digital Foundry retro on the F-Zero series, and they were talking about John Linneman is the name of the specific employee there who was making that video. He was talking about how this and the following F-Zero were the only two F-Zero games out of the handful that were made that were internally developed by Nintendo, and that his favorite, it seemed like in the video, is the version that was released for GameCube and had a simultaneous arcade release. And what was interesting about... Oh man, lost speed there. What was interesting about that was that he was saying that it was done... Oh man, that... losing that speed might have done it for me there. But he was saying that there was a somebody who was from Sega or associated with Sega development who had joined in on that one, and that it was in that literally people from Sega were working on the game, on a Nintendo game, but also in the way that it felt and the style of it. It was a real marriage of sort of the two brands and how they play and how they tend to be, because Sega is a bit more arcade action
Hmm.
as a generally, like, culturally or whatever in terms of their offerings, and that F-Zero is, has had a non-traditional place for Nintendo.
The thing that stood out to me in the last piece you're talking about is the GameCube release coming out with an arcade release at the same time. And I don't think of arcade games still being made.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know arcades still exist, and obviously they must be getting better as well. Maybe not great, but I think of systems and PCs now. And also being young enough that, like, arcades were never really a heavy thing for me unless we went to, like, I don't know, Craig's Cruisers or occasionally Chuck E. Cheese.
Mm-hmm.
When I was really young and we'd go to those, there was always the, like, why is this so much better than my PlayStation games? But now it's pretty interesting because I can't imagine that those games are better.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't have a ton of experience to really speak to there, but I can say that I do think it's an interesting position they're in now, in that they really do seem like they were originally about something you could not have at home in terms of power, as much as some of the other components, like a racing game in a car cockpit, with a big racing chair and steering wheel and brakes and gas and everything. So I think that is still some of it, and maybe the experience of getting out, kind of like the experience of going to the movie theater or whatever, although that still has, like, the big presentation that you can't have at home. But I do think that there's not really, the draw isn't necessarily that arcade power or performance or whatever. That just, does not seem like it would be the case at this point. And it's interesting too, I didn't mention this, but in that video he was saying that F-Zero release is his favorite arcade race game, so it would be cool to try and track one of those down in the area here.
Yeah, for sure.
Whoops. What I'm gonna do real quick here before we maybe wrap up this practice playthrough is to see. Oh, pardon me. See. Oh, I did it again.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if I press?
What are you trying to do?
Okay, I'm gonna go in. I want to just try another rival. And
Oh,
see,
yeah.
Is it much different in these practice sessions?
We're eventually gonna have to get down to trying
Those next two in the
yeah. So we got Blue Falcon, and then who's? Can we see the other racers before you select?
I can't go back, but I can always just bucket it.
I said fine.
Oh, here. Let's try one more time. I'm going to change car. Okay.
Okay, so Blue Falcon, Golden Fox or Gold Fox?
Golden
Fox. Wild Goose.
Wild Goose. Originally we were playing with this one because we thought we liked that fast ramp on the acceleration. It seemed like the one that had the fastest acceleration ramp, which now seems like less.
Fire Stingray.
Fire Stingray. Yeah, so this is, we were kidding in the beginning, this is the one that everybody says is the one to play because it has the highest top speed and good handling. Does seem like a no-brainer, but, trying to just see the lay of the land, learn it for ourselves, as they say.
The fact that there's a goose, a fast goose one, what were the... This is the movie with Tom Cruise that had they all had nicknames, just Maverick, Goose.
Oh, Top Gun.
Top Gun, Iceman. I'm searching their nicknames right now. Whole crew of pilots, snappy monikers like Viper, Cougar, Jester, Wolfman, Sundown, Slider, and Hollywood. It's it seems like all the experienced racers are definitely using oh, what was that bottom one?
I also have forgotten the name, but it's the Fire Stingray or something like that.
I think you nailed it.
Maybe.
But no one ever. So I feel like Goose is the one that goes most underlooked, but that's got to be the second best car in the game, you'd think.
Yeah, it seems like that one must be so decidedly the way to go that there's no care to what else you'd want to do. At least in terms of speed running. But like we were saying, like I was mentioning watching the Cinemassacre video, they also were like, the Stingray, whatever, the fire one is the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
So even beyond being like a hardcore speedrunner.
Well, it seems like what's a little bit backwards with that vehicle is that its physics aren't quite balanced in the way that I would imagine. Most games try to balance their vehicles, which is like Golden Fox being the best acceleration but the lowest top speed, and then but you can imagine that there are tracks in which that would be the thing you want. But somehow the fired Stingray hot pink red car is apparently, based on the videos that I've seen, both faster and has better traction.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just all around is the superior car except for acceleration. But if you're pretty good at not hitting walls and keeping your speed up, then you're...
Right. Yeah, maybe, an early critique of this game that I can think of would be the balance of the vehicles.
For sure.
Asking a little bit, like it would be good to see. Oh man, I can't believe I messed that last turn up. I wanted that last because I had 2 boosts. I was going to try to get the track record on that last lap.
You were gonna try.
I tried. It failed. So yeah, that rival is not much different.
Yeah, I wonder if part of it has to do with the rubber banding. Like, I'd be curious if the red car, because once they get out in front of you, maybe they'd be harder to catch up to. But if you can get out in front of them, they're sort of gonna race to you a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you want to give Sand Ocean a swing or call it there and come back for the Sand Ocean on the next F-Zero Let's Play?
Well, let's give it one. Give it a test.
A teaser?
Yeah.
All right. It's yours, Capitan
Oh, great.
Balkian.
Already starting 3 seconds back.
All right. What's the deal on this Sand Ocean?
All
I
right.
feel like this is just a more complicated version of kind of what we played. There's
That
no-
one might require a actual break there.
or a hard turn of some sort.
Okay, that one's not bad. This one's pretty doable. Okay, alright.
So just more points and maybe some more varied approach to get. So we have this hairpin here. And was that a just let go of the gas at one point?
Yep, that was just let go of the gas. This on let go of the gas, you can just swing it. But you probably do lose a lot of speed.
You
That
might
doesn't
be
seem like
better
the
doing a
optimal
hard
way.
turn, let go, and getting back on full blast with the right angle.
Yeah, so the next time we come through with that one, we'll try that. This one I almost feel like you could just hold down. Yeah, but you skid. It's actually always a little jarring to me when you actually skid in this vehicle, because you don't skid that often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a little bit weird. Hard to figure out.
Okay, so that one you can take. Okay, this is the one we wanted to do just a hard hairpin on. Yeah, that's a little better. I didn't get to see my speed, but it felt better.
Mm-hmm. So you released gas for a moment, and then you had the hard
Yeah.
to turn.
Alright, we're catching this guy. We're catching it. Got that one. Okay. We're gonna release for a second. Do the hairpin. We're at 404. Okay, we managed to keep it around 360. Oh. Felt good. Just last lap. Okay. So my speed dropped to 360 on the last. Oh, got that too skinny. Hairpin here. I'm gonna just let go of the gas again without.
Yeah, 320 something.
Okay, so that one deserves
some
hard.
balance of hard turning.
Yeah.
I almost think that which one. Nice. And then it becomes a question at some point of like, when do you want to tap the brake and how all of that. I mean, it's a whole puzzle,
sure.
but yeah.
Yeah, because it gets into like the speedrunners are bouncing off walls intentionally, and is that something you want to get good at? So speedrunners are tough because sometimes I wonder, like I know they're great at the game, and I know that takes a tremendous amount of skill, but I sort of balance it out with like, I don't know what the word for it is, or if there is a word for it, but it sort of surrounds this like purity of play. Like, would you play like that? Is that how it was meant to be raced? In a given sense, or is that how it was meant to be beaten? Not to take away, I guess I want to avoid taking away the creativity that still is there for speed racers or speed runners, but sometimes it feels a little gimmicky. They're like exploitative in a certain way.
I see what you're saying, yeah. Whereas you like learning the intended challenge of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the clearest example of that is like glitching through and skipping big portions of the game, right? So
Right. And that's less apparent on these, although I have watched, I don't think it's in this circuit, but in some of the later circuits, there's like very clearly a way to do a hard cut off of a jump almost entirely across the map.
mm-hmm.
And you're going to get, the game's going to then trigger the little things that pick you up when you fall off of the map, or when you go the wrong way on the map. And they figured out that essentially by triggering that thing to pick you up and turn you around, which is a slow process, it's still faster than if you were to race around the entirety of that track. And those are kind of the speed racy things where I'm like,
Yeah, it's like you want to grow through the mastery of the tracks and the physics of the developed game.
Yeah, for sure.
In a non-shortcut way or whatever,
And I love watching speed racing
But
stuff.
and
it's just like for a purity of play, or like fun play experience. Like I wouldn't want, if this game were 2-player and we were racing each other, like it would be less interesting to me if the two of us were like trying to make that a part of the experience, where
playing like garbage, but it's just where I'm at on this course right now. Alright, let's see if I can salvage a victory. Nope. Maybe. Okay, so where should I try to get the...
pretty good ground there.
No, not there.
That turn's wider. That one you just went around is wider than I always expect, and I find I'm cutting myself short.
Oh well,
Ooh, that's close.
it's a bad run, but I'm learning it.
Cool.
So yeah, we're getting there.
We'll just keep going for it.
Yeah, so I mean, this is the way that I'm enjoying playing the game, and potentially popping into the Grand Prix next time. But it's fun to learn these first four courses. This one's fun. It really, what's fun about this is that it's a very different mechanic. I like on a design level, I like this first set. Like the rest of the game, haven't even really explored. But what I like about these first four, 1 through 3, are basically just increasingly difficult courses to navigate through and to uh, strategize around in terms of hard turns, brake, gas, and reflexes, etc. And then this one just changes that mechanic up to round out the set. And I feel like it's a nice change of pace after you've gotten to that last one, which is like a high intensity, turn bending race, at least for the easier set of courses. And then this is like straightforward pill shaped course with wild wind mechanics and a fairly narrow, not the narrowest, but overall, fairly narrow strip. And when you're in the Grand Prix, especially, like the practice is one thing. This is more of a face it in the moment thing because it's all about that wind and all the other traffic out there.
Yeah, if you haven't played the game, it's the interesting part that's added to the Grand Prix is obviously there are more racers, but also there seem to be these like computer, I don't know what do you call them, CPUs, computer player operated pieces that aren't really racing you. They're just in the way. Um, that add a whole nother dynamic when you start to factor in wind and this other stuff. Um, but definitely, if you haven't played this game, play it. It's really easy to pick up. It's challenging, but you can just sort of keep picking it up. You can keep playing it in a way that I didn't necessarily expect when I started.
Mm-hmm.
These early games seem to be 50-50. Obviously, this game has a huge history and was already vetted as sort of a timeless game for us to try. But um, yeah, I think it's worth testing out and trying it. I also think it adds a richness to the other games that we're watching.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's fun to watch other people play it when you get a sense of like what they're doing, what they're navigating, and even just how challenging some of the parts are.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. This has definitely been worth the experience in playing and has exceeded what I expected from it and hooked me way more than I thought. Um, and in kind of that ideal listening stage when you have a new song that you hear and you've listened to it enough to start getting familiar with it and yet it still is like surprising you. I feel like that's where I am with F-Zero right now. It's just hitting all the right notes and reaching its like peak experience richness for me. So we will tackle some of these. That sand, we'll get a little bit more in that sand course next time, and then tackle Death Wind and see what we can do in the Grand Prix. Um, Maybe we can even beat the first Grand Prix on hard. We'll see. I think hard is a big step up from medium, but a little bit of night course arrogance as we glide through some of these stages.
For sure.
Yeah, we're still here. We just don't know how to shut this thing off. We gotta change the. We're really awkwardly connected to the capture software in this very small room setup that we have going on. I don't know what I'm doing. Here we go. All right, let's get out of here.
Peace.